How do you balance being a teacher, selling your paintings, and continuing to progress with your paintings? These are questions. These are actually the questions that I've been getting these last couple of weeks. So I thought what I do is basically just give you a little video to give you my opinion on these, because they are absolutely fundamental questions, and I think they touch a lot of people. And it's actually been something that has been, I would say, a preoccupation of myself, because I have taught people how to paint in watercolor for the last 30 odd years, I think. I'm also a professional artist, so I sell my paintings, and at the same time, I want to focus on my progress. I also want to focus on my creativity and the way that I develop. And how do you balance these three? Because when you're giving so many workshops or a lot of teaching, it's actually very different to when you're painting for yourself. Because if you're anything like me, okay, so this is where I come from. When I teach, I try and simplify what I do. I try and simplify my ideas and the way that I see different aspects of painting. I try to simplify them so that I can pass them on to the students, so that they can gain this knowledge and then we can build on it. So when I teach, I'm simplifying. I'm simplifying subjects, I'm simplifying principles, and I'm simplifying different technical aspects of painting. When I'm painting for myself, however, I do the complete opposite. I'm wanting to expand my creativity. I'm wanting to expand my danger zones, and I'm wanting to go out of my comfort zones. I am actually often trying to make things a little bit more complicated, because that actually stimulates me. So there's two very different kinds of methods. One which is sort of a reductionist system of simplifying, and the other one is let's take on the world and see where we end up. And the third one in between, if you're painting to sell, how do you paint paintings that are sellable whilst at the same time you're trying to develop your paintings in a way that progresses them, but perhaps you're also teaching, and so in that case you're simplifying it. They're three completely different things, yet many artists actually are preoccupied with the three of them at the same time. Many of us actually function on all three of these at the same time. So the way that I do it is always the same way. Okay, so this is my method. Doesn't mean that it's the best method, but it's my method. So I always find that when we understand why, it makes things much more understandable and useful. So one of the questions that I had today in one of my workshops, in one of my live courses, was the fact that many students want to constantly paint new subjects. They want to constantly paint, let's just say 1 week it's a portrait, the next week it's a marine, the next week it's a landscape, the next week it's a still life, and they want to constantly do something different. And many people in courses want to actually go home with the finished painting at the end of every lesson. Now, you can, as a teacher, go down that path and try to offer something different every week. You can also try and go down that path and try and get them to finish, your students to finish paintings every single week that they're happy with. And that's satisfying. For the student, that's satisfying, but it's not going to get them to progress. So as a teacher, you're going to have to make a choice. And I think one of the easiest ways to do is to sort of start along this way of sort of saying, okay, so this is possible, this sort of subject is out there, this is out there, this is sort of the results you can get with that and that. And then as the weeks go by, your students will start to feel that, yeah, that's great, but my light's not good, or I find that my tonal values, they're too dark, or they're too heavy, or my colors are just not the way that I want them to be. Your students are going to tell you where their frustrations are. And I would say let them experiment with that diversity of subject. Don't try and bring them into something too complicated too fast. Let them experiment with different ideas, different principles, and allow them to ask you the questions. Allow them at their time, at their rhythm to say, my paintings aren't transparent. I'd like more transparency. Great. This week, let's focus on improving transparency. Okay, perhaps someone's got a different problem where, let's just say their colors are too bright or too dull. Okay, today let's focus on color. And you can sort of bring these aspects into your subjects, into your courses easily. And then if you want to build on those things, we could say, okay, so let's say that we've got a problem with our colors and we're wanting to work our colors differently. Let's say, okay, maybe with one subject, maybe it's a landscape. Let's see if we can create this landscape in autumn, and use autumn colors to basically try to create this feeling of autumn. And let's maybe try and do a second subject very similar to the first, as a winter scene or a summer scene or a spring scene, and use your colors with a similar subject to actually expand their knowledge of color, to actually allow them to develop a little bit more the work on color by not changing the subject so dramatically each week, but giving them a different reason. It's a different season. Or perhaps it's a different subject in the sense that you're wanting to paint colors, and today we're painting a more vibrant bouquet, which is very lively and very stimulating. And maybe the next week, okay, let's see how we can use our colors to create a more classical feel in our paintings. So as a teacher, you can still vary your subjects. Don't and definitely get your students to vary a lot their subjects in the beginning, but then slow the diversity down and start to bring in more principles into the paintings, but make sure there is always a bigger goal, and that they know, that your students know, there is a reason for this painting. There is a reason for doing a second painting, perhaps similar to the first, to create maybe a more classical feel. And maybe there's another reason even after that one to develop even further a similar subject, so that maybe your color work can be enriched even more. So you can help your students by allowing them to play in the beginning, allow them to discover different subjects, and then start to reduce the diversity of the subject matter and expand the principles of painting: color, tonal values, texture, brushwork, composition, these sort of elements. And when you do want to work different elements, then I would say stick to a similar subject. Today we're going to paint still life, and we're going to do a series of 3 or 4 still lifes, and we're going to focus on different compositions each week, or different colors or different tonal values, so that they develop these skills. And that is actually very stimulating for the students because they learn more. But it's also more stimulating for you because it's a lot more interesting than every single week just trying to find something new to paint. And let's just say you can develop it more rather than just one painting one day and then one painting another day. You're wanting to be able to develop your painting and the way that you're teaching them, because you're going to see your students progress. When you see your paintings, when you see the paintings of your students progress, you're going to be a very happy painter and a happy teacher. Now, the second one, if you're wanting to paint to sell, I would also say be very careful with this, because when you paint to sell, we tend to get ourselves a little bit locked into what we think we want people, what other people want, what we think the judge wants, what we think the buyers want. And it can get uncomfortable to paint. And I don't think that's the best way of painting. I think the best way of painting is that we paint the thing that we want to paint at the time, because that's always what we're going to paint the most. And then we're quite simply just choosing where I'm going to put that painting, the place or the exhibition or the gallery where that painting will get the best results. That's where I'm going to put it. And I think that's more effective than actually painting for exhibitions, because you have a pressure on you. Maybe it helps you, maybe it stimulates you, but most people it doesn't. Most people, they actually get stressed by the process, and they paint better when they're just free to paint. So I would say paint freely. Don't worry about sales. Don't worry about exhibitions. Just paint with the goal of progressing and developing what you're doing. and that will get you further, and then find the competitions and the exhibitions or the galleries that actually correspond to the work that you're doing. That's something that we develop a lot in the exhibition course. If you're wanting to join the next exhibition course, just go to my website. That's something which is very fundamental. Now, the third part of it is that as an artist, you want to keep developing. We've been talking a lot about this in the last few lives, how artists actually can develop their paintings more and faster and with a goal that gets them somewhere. If you're wanting to listen to one of my lives where I dig deep into this, I would definitely go back into the archive section of my website and listen to the live that I've done on the 26th of January. And I would even say also the one of the 19th of January, just before. These two lives were very important on this subject, because as an artist, you need to keep developing. If you're not keeping developing, if you're not progressing with your art, your students will get bored, your public will get bored, your selection results and your sales will go down, and you're going to get frustrated. So as an artist, you need to progress. That's where our motor comes from. That's where our passion comes from. Passion doesn't come from something which is just based in routine. That's what kills passion. That's what tampers it and makes it just sort of dwindle down like a candle that just sort of slowly just goes out. Your passion comes from the chase of basically progressing and getting whatever it is that you want done. You're wanting to get to that level of painting, to get this effective volume in your portraits, or to get a certain expression in your portraits, or to get a landscape which has got like an amazing atmosphere in it, or to get still lifes that have got a sort of a very modern sort of geometrical kind of design. Whatever your goal is, you have to keep progressing with it. You don't want to stand still. You don't want to get stuck painting to sell or painting to teach. And it's very important that the artist stays the artist, and you can share your knowledge freely and willingly with pleasure, but don't stop progressing your own paintings. It's fundamental for your own happiness as an artist. So I don't know if that helps, and I hope that answers some of your questions. If it does, brilliant. I hope this information helps you, and I hope that it clarifies that these, although they are three different things, you, the artist, is the stable part of it. You, the artist, is the foundation, and these other aspects are just part of what you do. But you can't stop being you, the progressing artist. That would be, I would say, a shame, and that would probably be something that would cause a lot of sadness and frustration if you're not progressing with your own art the way that you want to. And particularly if you're doing it just to sell, or you're doing it just to help other people, you need that motor, and that motor is fundamental. So I hope this video helps you. And if you have any questions, put them in the comments below, because I will read them and I will answer them. And if you have any other suggestions, then just put them in the comments below, and they may become a future video. Also, feel free to subscribe to this channel, because then you will get notifications for the videos that I'm producing. You need to click on the little bell to get the notifications, and that's going to help me get these messages out to more and more artists, because I believe the more artists are able to paint what they want, how they want, and we raise the level, the better the art world and the better for everybody, because there's nothing like a whole group of passionate artists that go and influence and inspire people around them. So with that said, I shall say I see you in another live or another video. Take care. Happy painting.